and welcome to this week's Knit a Rainbow. My name is Kimberly McAlinden, and I am so glad that you are here. This week, special treat. My girlfriend Crystal is here to talk to you all about who she is as a designer, her latest designs that are coming out and have come out today, which is exciting, and her amazing makers boxes. Now, if you watched last week, you saw that I opened one live and I was blown away by what is in the maker's box. And one thing that I superly love about it is that she includes both a pattern for knit and crochet. So without further ado, I would love to introduce to you my friend Crystal. Hi, Crystal.
Hi everyone. Great to be here. Thanks for
So
having me,
good to have
Kimberly.
you here.
Yeah, I love seeing your face. I feel like it's been forever.
I know, and I know. This is really, really busy time for us
Mhm.
designers, in the industry. Not even just designers, all makers, right? All
Yeah.
knitters, all makers. It's a busy, busy time. So how I saw in your about, first of all, why don't you talk about why is your name Factory Girl Design?
Oh, well, I've had a few renditions of names over the years, and Factory Girl is where I've settled because it most represents me and who I am. I am a factory girl. I grew up working in manufacturing my entire life. My parents started a manufacturing business here in my hometown. And as my sisters and I grew up, being young girls, we always worked in the shop, whether it be sweeping floors, picking parts, packing things, a little bit of welding, spot welding, a little bit of everything. And then eventually working our way up into being able to work in the office, which was always the ultimate goal. It's fun being out on the shop floor, but we always liked being in the office too, where you can answer the phones and talk to people and get to know the customers and things like that. But so growing up, I was always in a factory setting, but I also have always had a passion for race cars and racing and motorcycles and bikes and all kinds of things that like gears and tools and all kinds of fun stuff like that. Um, and my dad has been the one who really got myself and my one of my sisters, well, both my sisters for the most part, involved in those things too, and taught us lots of things and how to pretty much fend for ourselves if needed. We were always pretty handy. Some of our first gifts were tools, especially after graduating from college and that too. But so anyways, Factory Girl is just, it represents me, and I also love knitting, and I'm learning to love crochet, and I am falling head over heels with spinning and fiber. And so that's where like the design piece comes into things too, because I've also been designing, oh gosh, 7 years now. This last October celebrated 7 years of that. So that's kind of how it all came full circle. And I'm a fairly new knitter. I mean, it's been about 13 years now, so the years are tacking on. But my grandma is the one who first really introduced me to yarn and fiber and knitting, and crocheting too. She was a big crocheter. She also knit as well. And whenever I'd go visit her, I loved hanging out with my grandma Hyatt, who's on my dad's mom. And I love my other grandma too, but Grandma Hyatt, Grandma Millie, she was the crafty one, and we would just sit and talk, and she loved to tell stories, and I loved to listen to stories. And we'd talk about books and talk about everything. We played card games and all of that. So she is the one who introduced me and really tried to teach me, but I couldn't figure it out to save my life. I was much better at just hanging out, playing cards, and chatting with her. She's also left-handed, so I always kind of fall back on that. Like she was left-handed, I'm right-handed. It just
That's hard.
wasn't. Yeah, it was hard learning that, not being able to figure that out. So, but she introduced me to it, and then throughout my life growing up, my mom and my dad were also like they're crafty people, and my mom sewed. They introduced us to embroidery and needlepoint. My dad's a amazing wood crafter, and
Mm.
he taught us how to, make puzzles, turn pens, we turned bowls, we made from the scraps in our wood shop, we would make furniture for our dolls. And I had strawberry shortcake way back in the 80s. And um I remember I made like beds and chairs and kitchen tables and all these things for them. And then we paint them and decorate them and all that. But my dad, like my parents taught us how to do all those things. And then
Mm.
more like a lot of other woodworking pieces too. Um, but anyway, so like that's how, so 13 years ago, a little yarn shop opened here in my town where I live in Minnesota. And I wandered in one day and met the owners and was like, can anyone teach me how to knit? Maybe we'll have success now that I'm older. And so my dear friend Kelly taught me how to knit. And then the rest is history. And I kind of just fell down a massive rabbit hole of stashing yarn and making things and going from there. And then designing felt like the next thing for me because I wanted to see certain pieces out in the world. And for me, like there's things like you might see something in the store, but it's not quite right, or you get inspired by a rug or a piece or wallpaper or something. And
Mm.
you're like, gosh, how can I to make that into an accessory or a sweater or a blanket? So from that, I was like, well, I think I'm gonna stumble into this little path, see what happens. And I did a lot of test knitting too at the time. So I got to see a lot of different designers, how they worked, what they did, like what worked well and what didn't
Mm.
work always so well. And many of those designers have become great friends too and support people. Um, but so being able to have things that I saw that I wanted and to be able to create those on my own led me to the designing. But then also garments. Like I'm a little bit of a bigger gal and I have well endowed in the front area. And so nothing ever quite fit right. I would knit
Mm.
sweaters and they were supposed to be the right size, but it didn't really work well. And so I really just started trying to read more about garments and what tweaks you can make and how our bodies are, what's important in the different elements that you're in a pattern to be able to shape it for your body right. So a lot of trial and error, but that was the other thing too, is I want to be able to have things that I wanted to wear. And I wanted things to look really nice and timeless and classic. And I didn't just want, you go to the store and there's like frumpy things that just like don't make you feel beautiful. So to be able to make my own was huge. And so that was also kind of led down that path too. So I kind of carried on from just how we got the name Factory Girl, but Factory
I was
Girl
like,
led
I'm gonna
into
take a look and see if I have any more questions
yeah.
about
Oh, I'm sure there's something.
it.
But
So, speaking of designing, so I kind of slipped into designing kind of the same way because I couldn't find anything that I wanted, right? It was like
Mhm.
something that I wanted and I couldn't find a pattern. And when I started designing, the internet was nothing like it is now. There was no Ravelry. I would just kind of come up with, the shape and whilst you were making little sets, tables and chairs and beds for your strawberry shortcake. I had something called the Mandy doll in the 80s, which looked a lot like the now American Girl doll. And she had a friend Jenny, which I had, but we didn't really like her very much. But so Mandy, that's where I learned to braid hair and to do all that stuff on my Mandy doll. I used to make her clothes.
Oh, cool.
And so I would be knitting little clothes for her and all that stuff. But where the heck was I? Oh, so when you were saying that, you were finding things that, you liked the look of them, but they didn't necessarily look good on your particular figure. I found the same thing. I'm very narrow in the shoulders and wide in the bust. And then, I tend to be a little fluffy. And so I had an issue with that, with, one size does not fit all. So
Mhm.
how did you use the knowledge? Like, did you use from your, um, you know, did you take a course or anything on designing for different sizes? Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, so what I took a couple of different grading courses.
Mhm.
One was through the Tech Editor Hub, and then that was the very first one, which is very technical. And then the second course was from Julie Robinson, one of her design labs. And those between the two of those, I learned so much about like reading the size charts. Like as we know, just from shopping online at regular, fast fashion locations and reading a size chart and a knitting pattern, they're all over the board. We have
Yeah.
no idea. Nothing's the same. And to be able to understand like if there's positive ease or negative ease built into the garment, or if that has to be, or if that's just, well, you got to pick a size like 5 inches larger than what you normally would choose. Like being able to understand that is very hard in the everyday world. So but anyways, back to Julie's course really shed a lot of light on a number of different things and aspects and ways to think about things. And it's such a great collaborative group of people that are a part of that too, because there's a lot of chatting and sharing and like, I got this struggle, I can't figure out like how do I make this color work pattern work across all of these different sizes, or I want it to be a raglan and I want to incorporate color work. How do I do this without breaking up the pattern and make it 12, 15 sizes so that there's nice variegation of sizes that maybe like by 2 inches or by 4 inches, like how
Right.
everybody figures that out.
Right.
But so those courses helped me a lot. And it's trial and error. And it's just reaching out to the network of people. I have an amazing tech editor that I'm constantly asking her questions like, what do you think about this? What if we did
Mm,
this? What is this gonna do? Like it's so good to have people to bounce ideas off of. Because if we work in as solo entrepreneurs, we really work in a silo all by ourselves, and it's really nice to be able to have people you trust and respect that you can go and ask questions to, and they'll help you. And the
mm,
more we work together, the better it is. But I think one of the most mind-blowing things to me, and this might be pretty basic to a lot of people, but was figuring out bus starts and how to use them and where to use them. Like it was such a game changer for me 10 years ago when I was like,
mhm,
oh, that's why these
mhm.
sweaters sit like way up here and my gut's hanging out. And,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
it's so weird. And, I just didn't know. And it's kind of like, it goes back to swatching too. I Full disclosure, I didn't know you had to swatch. When I first started knitting, nobody told me no one said to swatch. Like, and maybe I should have realized it, but I was so new and reading patterns and like it said, gauge and but there wasn't like an instruction that said, be sure to swatch. Like
Wow,
check your
that's
gauge.
interesting. That's
And
interesting.
well, and I just kinda dove into it, like, I didn't go to my yarn shop and be like, "What am I supposed to do now?" Like, I was like, "I can
Right.
figure this out. I'm a
Yeah,
smart
I was
girl."
the same. I was the
Yeah,
same.
and, so it took a little while, and then I was like, "Oh, that's what that gauge means."
I think you learn
Yeah,
a lot more when you dive in yourself.
I feel like that too.
For me, my experience has always been when I head into the unknown by myself,
Mhm.
I learn a lot more. I make a lot more mistakes, but I learn a lot more of what to do and what not to do, which
Yes.
which works
Yeah,
as well. Uh,
yeah.
So let's talk about let's I'm going to show everybody, one you're actually wearing it right now.
Yeah.
But let's look at this beautiful sweater that you have going on. What's the name of this one?
This is the Currents pullover.
Mhm.
And this was a really fun collaboration with Mitchell Wool Company and Spin Cycle Yarns. And it's a basic circular yoke pullover, but it's a lot of fun because every single person who knits this, theirs is going to be completely different. The way how I've incorporated using the spin cycle or you can use any type of a hand spun yarn in there too. But especially like it's a fun way to use your own hand spun if you are a spinner. But we add these, chasing stripes throughout the pattern, and they're just worked throughout from top to bottom. It's a wide rib at both the neckline and your hem and your cuffs and like a bracelet length sleeve too. There's instructions to knit them shorter or longer in the pattern too. So that's one of the things I try to offer in all of my patterns are lots of different modification options from what you need. Like sometimes your bicep area, you might have a smaller bicep or a larger bicep than what I use as my fit sizing. And so I have instructions in the patterns to be able to adjust that for your fit. Always instructions to add, bust starts where you would need to do that. And even adjusting your hems. Like, do you want a high, low back? Do you want a straight? Do you want a crop? Do you want a little bit longer? All the different potential lengths or just guidelines so that you can make the choice to make it your own and customize it for yourself. So, but yeah, this was a really fun thing. We kind of, in talking with Sherry at Mitchell Wool, she's like, I just want like a nice basic pullover that you can, with some ease in it, that you can throw over a tank
Mhm.
top, a shirt, a dress, whatever. But like a nice layering piece. And it showcases one of their new DK weight yarns. So it's also knit in DK weight, but on really large needles, which is also unique and a little bit different. So it knits up pretty fast too.
Yeah, that's one of my tricks.
Yes.
Even fingering weight, I've designed garments, with a size 6 needle with fingering weight because it will,
Mhm.
it'll be like this drapey dream.
Yes.
And I love that. But I love the pullover. I love that there are choices in the pattern. Back in the day when there was a pattern, it was just the pattern is the pattern is the pattern, right?
Mhm.
But, and what I used to do very intuitively, you probably the same, is that I would change it so that it looked nice on me, whether I lengthened it or whether I, put in not I don't necessarily put in a bust dart. I usually just do maybe an inch or two of short rows across my bust just to
Mhm.
give it that little extra fabric to make it around this way. And that usually for me would occur right after I split for the sleeves. I would do like little short rows and then, it would lay so that everything else laid nicely. But very intuitively I would do that. And then I realized that there are a lot of knitters out there that don't intuitively knit like that. And so
Mhm.
it's wonderful to hear that your patterns have those things that people that have been knitting for years and years and years, or those people that are designers that would change things. What a wonderful thing that you're doing for the everyday knitter, which I love the everyday knitter,
Yeah.
but I love giving them options.
Yeah. Well, and always think back whenever I'm writing a pattern, I think about when I was knitting. Like
Mm.
my very first thing that I ever knit was the Gaptastic shawl. And I was so excited. I got
Oh,
this
that's
great, like, I know,
yes.
I love that pattern. I've knit it so many times, but the very first time I bought all the chunky yarn, I got chunky Malabrigo, got my needles. I had these needles that had the string attached. I have no idea how to
Mhm.
use them. I just figured I'll figure this out. I packed everything up, I boarded a plane. I went to China. I had a good business trip to go to. And I was like, this is going to be my project on the plane. And, at that time, this was so long ago, you didn't really have Wi-Fi on the planes, so you couldn't
Right.
look things up on YouTube. And I kept reading the instructions and I'm like, wonder what the heck it means in the round. Well, I know the stitch pattern. I'll just keep going back and forth and figure out what the in the round is later. So then I go get to back home. Like, I'm like so proud. I'm like, look at my shawl, look at my cowl. And I'm like, how do I put this together? And they're like, you're supposed to knit it in the round. I'm like, what? What does that mean? So then I had to knit another one. But I think back, like, I probably made so many stupid mistakes that people probably like, I might be the only one that ever did them. But I look back on those things when I write patterns and I'm like, how can I make this for somebody who really has no idea what they're doing, but still make it engaging and easy for somebody who has 30, 40 years worth of experience. So
Right.
I
Wow.
try to I try my best to cover all gamuts of skill sets. And there's always things that are missed, but I really do go back to like, all right, I was really clueless when I first started this. So how can I make it easy for someone else so they don't do the things that I did?
Oh. All right. So let's look at your brandy new.
Oh,
Oh, look it. And I
hey.
see it's right behind you.
Yes. So this is
What?
my new Fleetwood shawl that just dropped today.
Mhm.
This is just it's a fun asymmetrical pattern that you knit from tip to tip. So you start at one end here and then I'll take this off of here. But there's just like you can see in the photo, lot like fun little color work, mosaic knitting, slip stitches.
Mhm.
And then you end up at the center point and then that's where I break it off to go just a little bit more basic with some stockinette and garter ridges and then throwing in a 2-color Tunisian braid just to kind of break. And I did that to break it up because there's so that the mosaic knitting is, that's the powerhouse. That's the pretty bit. But then it's nice to kind of even it out with something a little bit basic so that it gives more light to that section. And that's my opinion on it. But and then I finished it off with, you can't see it. We can kind of see it in this picture with the colored ridging. Woo! Garter ridges using up the rest of the contrast color that you use in there. And I also knit a version in DK weight yarn because I wanted something a little more moodier for fall. And I didn't change anything with the pattern. I knit it the exact same way. It used the same amount of yardage. So it worked out really well. So you can use pretty much any type of yarn that you want with it. So sport weight or fingering weight with it. But
Gorgeous.
thanks.
It's absolutely beautiful. I love this one.
Yeah. Well, and I need to share too, the other fun part about this is the yarn shown in this photo here, I received it was given to me as yarn support from Kelsey at Primrose Yarn. And I
Mhm.
got it like way back early in the summer. And I just love the color combination. And I took a picture and I sent it out to those who are on my newsletter at that time. And I'm like, I want to make a shawl with this. What would you do? What would you like to see? And oh my gosh, I received so many beautiful responses from people and great ideas. And so a lot of that is all incorporated in this design too. So it's really special to me because it's like it was built together with those that are all part of the Factory Girl family. So yeah, it was a fun little I don't know, collaboration in a way of
Yeah, that's
all
super
people's
cool.
ideas. So yeah.
And, how many skeins of yarn does it take?
So it uses one skein of what is the Homestead Sport. So 250 yards of your, a hand spun or your variegated yarn. And then for the main color, the background color, it's 720 yards. So, I mean, depending on how many skein, like the yardage of your yarn, it could be 3 to 4 balls of yarn.
I think it's an incredible, incredible, designed to showcase hand spun yarn, you know.
Yes.
Oh, are you a spinner, Crystal?
I am becoming a weirdly obsessive new spinner, and I want to knit this using yarn that I've just hand spun too. So, yeah, that's gonna maybe be my Christmas project, is digging out some of that. So, yes, thanks to Kimberly
Oh,
and a variety of other people, I feel like I've become a better spinner in the last month. That's
so
another thing. I
this
just,
is
like,
yeah.
dove into, no clue what I'm doing, bought all the stuff. Now I gotta figure it
Right,
out.
but I really admire that about you because you're I mean, most of us in this creative space, like, when we start something, I mean, I remember when I would just go to the yarn store for like one project. And
Yeah.
like that was all the yarn I had in my house was for that one project.
That's
What?
impressive.
Uh, but I mean, my stash now will outlive me, but I think that when I start something new, I have to have all the things. I'm just so obsessed with it that I really I it's like, I don't know, I just do it. But anyway, um what would you say has helped your spinning? I love that first of all you dove in during the Tour de Fleece, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
And what would you say would be a tip for someone that's starting to spin and they just don't, they just need a little bit of help? What would be your number one tip?
Mm. Well, can I have 2?
Yes, of course you can.
Okay, good. Because I feel like they kind of go together. So one is it was pre-drafting, kind
Mm,
of, pulling your fiber out a little bit, loosening it up a little bit before you would start to spin it. And I may not have all the terminology correct, but that helped tremendously. And then the other part was like it's like feeding the fiber back into the spinner. So I use an e-spinner. I use one of the e-wheels. And so I never used a spindle. I never used a
right.
wooden spinner, nothing like that. So it's always been an e-spinner. But I would like fight with the machine. Like I'd want to pull it back more to hopefully stretch it out to be able to spin it.
Mhm.
And then watching you when we were together at Rhinebeck and seeing you like feeding it back in. And I also watched a couple of your other of your YouTube videos, and I was seeing that when it was like one of the Vlogmas ones, a couple of those, and watching that process, I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense.
Mm,
So those two things like changed the game for me.
yeah.
Um, but the ultimate game changer was investing in myself for my birthday and buying an auto winder, because now I no longer have to stop my wheel, adjust the bobbin doodads on there to like move it along so that it evens out. Now it just winds it on its own. So all I have to do is focus on the process. And
I'm smiling so hard because we because we were we were in the same house for Rhinebeck, and thanks to Kelsey of Primrose,
yeah.
and they were so busy, so Crystal and I got to spend a lot of time together, and I for some reason, which is so weird, I brought my e-spinner, and so Crystal went to Tabitha from Long Island Yarn and Farm and got some fiber from her. And I'm always getting yarn from her because I'm doing designs. And I was like, I want to get some fiber. So of course I had to copy Crystal and get some fiber. Which it just so happens I have like the little bit that's left of what I spun.
So pretty.
Uh, and I was spinning it, one night and talking to Crystal about it, and so she got to play. But the big thing is, I helped her spend money. I'm so good at it. With getting her an auto winder, and I do think it is an investment.
It
So
is.
I would figure out. if this is something that you wanted to learn to do, and then get yourselves the tools that are going to make it easier. And when you're working with a traditional wheel, we're talking about like a woolly winder, or myauttowinder.com. You can go look at them. But for specifically for the and Crystal just happened to have the same exact wheel e-spinner that I had.
Yeah.
So it was an auto winder that we put on there, that I had put on mine, that then, now we're twinsies.
We're twinsies, and it was, like I said, it's an investment. So it's not something just to do on a whim. And I'm so passionate about spinning. It's like when I first picked up knitting needles, I really can't get enough.
I
It's
hear you.
if I don't spin in the morning while I'm having my coffee, it's like the first thing I do for 15, 20 minutes when I get home at the end of the day. Like, it's just my unwinding moment or my waking up moment. It's become such a part of my life, and it's magical. I love seeing the whole process. Like, next I need to go visit some of our farms, and around me here in Minnesota, go see, like, let's go hang out with the sheep and the alpaca. I want to see that whole process. I want to be part of the shearing process. Like, how do we get from point A to point B? I've been in mills before. I've seen all the stuff except for the farm. So now it's time to go spend time with the animals. But it just it just amazes me. I love, it's kind of like being in a factory. Like, when you see the whole process of like where something is made from start to finish, we make components that are used in finished parts. So they go to other places, and then all of a sudden they might end up in your home as a stove or a refrigerator, or a piece of fitness equipment. But to have these customers where I can go and like see these steps taken from point A to point B, and seeing that, it's amazing. But I love that kind of stuff. That's the factory girl in me. I
Yeah.
just
I
love,
just think that's so cool.
yeah, it's pretty neat. So, but yeah, yes, we diverge, but yeah.
So I'm definitely I'm working really hard these next 2 weeks, so that when my Marin is home, like, we have time together. 'Cause she's home for a whole week during Thanksgiving, which is, it's such a blessing. So I want to have like a fun project to do, and I'm gonna make your Fleetwood shawl with my hand spun.
Oh, I
I'm
can't wait to
so
see
excited.
it.
I just cannot wait. I cannot wait. I also wanted to tell people that Crystal's website and her newsletter is really fun to read. There's lots of information on there. Her blog is really nice, and it's put up in a way that is I just admire it so much. So I mean, not only do you help run your family business, but you also have a whole other business, and you're still learning things, and you have, a killer website. And two thumbs up and a snap for you. I actually yesterday washed 4 pounds of sheep fleece. I wish you were over, because, when you take something that, and I'm going to show you a picture now, but when you take something that comes out of the bag, now this is all very sexy to me, but this is the photo of the fleece when it came out of the bag.
Wow.
It smelled so good.
So
And
sheepy.
I'm going to show you a picture of it washed.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that amazing?
Isn't that incredible?
Wow. Oh, that looks like little clouds of heaven.
And I don't even like want to put it away, because, because it's so, I just look at it and it makes me smile. Those are the things, like, I tell people, starting and ending your day with things that make you happy and things that make your
Mhm.
heart buzz. The fact that you're spinning first thing in the morning, whilst you're having your coffee, I'm usually doing, knitting or something like that. When I tend to be a little bit obsessive about things. So if I start a braid, it's like I have to finish the braid.
Yeah.
I can't do that,
No, because it'll sit
moderate.
there. Yeah, like, it's staring at me, and I'm like, "Oh." I really should go do some laundry, but oh, it's 15 minutes.
So on top of everything else that you do, you make these incredible makers boxes. Do you want to talk about what, this was the box that I received. Do you
Mhm.
want to talk about what inspired you to make makers boxes?
Yeah, so I wanted one of the things that I love is bringing people together, um, in all parts of my life, whether it's through business or through work, or I'm sorry, the business and work are the same thing, through friends, through family, like how can we find these connections? And um one of the things, there's a lot of different there's lots of subscription boxes out there. A lot of them are like a sock box or a yarn and that, but I wanted to bring something that introduce people to all sorts of things and new companies and new dyers, and different types of products or food or recipes. And mocktails is one of my big kicks these days too. And so that was the summer box this last year had a summer sips and knits theme to it, so there was all kinds of mocktail fun things in there, and yarn and other things and patterns and that. So for me it was just another way to be able to, I also love to shop. Um, and I love to find new things. And in my newsletter, once a month, I also share my favorite things. And it's just like links to just random stuff that I've discovered over the course of the year or month or even that week sometimes. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so neat. I gotta share it with other people. But anyways, the makers boxes, there it was something I just thought would be fun to try. And I really am enjoying it. And from what I hear from recipients, they're really loving them too. And so right now we're headed into 2025. This 2025. Here's the picture. The theme for 25 is desert blooms. I adore visiting the desert. And one of the things throughout the course of the year, when I do get the chance to go to Arizona in particular, you see different blooms on the cacti and out in the desert. Whether it's at nighttime, there's different things that come out versus during the daytime, and spring versus summer versus fall and winter. And it just, I don't know, it struck me last year, in this past spring, actually, it was when I was seeing all these things popping up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. So that's what drew me in for the theme for 2025. Each box, there's 4 boxes throughout the course of the year, and they're seasonal. So they ship quarterly, but it also falls in a season. So the first box ships at the beginning of January. That's the winter box, which is at the top of the photo with kind of like the calmer looking, kind of not as bright cacti out there. And then spring, you got pops of color, and that ships for April at the beginning of April. And then summer is the bright purples and yellows and all that. And that ships at the beginning of July, and then fall ships at the beginning of October. So it all kind of follows the seasons. And there's a knitting pattern and a crochet pattern in each box. There is yarn from a selected dyer that I'm collaborating with for each one of the boxes. And you never know what you're gonna get in the box. You like the fall box, you got a skein of fingering and a skein of mohair. Sometimes there might be a whole bundle of minis. There might be 2 to 3 full skeins of yarn, so that you can work on a larger project that's included in there. Like it just changes. DK weight, there's a little bit of everything. So I try to change it up throughout the course of the year. And it's just really fun to collaborate with a variety of makers. And I also try to focus on small businesses and women-owned businesses, where I can, and local too. Like there's throughout the course of the year, and going into 25, there's also some local companies too that are unique to my part of the world, that I like to be able to share and introduce people to as well. So But anyways, if you're interested, give it a try. There's still a few spots open for the winter box, which ships in January. And you can order either per season, or there's half year or full year subscriptions too. So, and if you have any questions, just reach out to me at any point. By email or send me a message on Instagram. I'm happy to get back to you.
And if you are on Facebook, the link to purchase these or to get more information is in the description box.
Oh, thank you.
My pleasure. So I can't tell you how happy I am, to have you on here, Crystal. You are really, really, not only are you very interesting, but you're a very, very nice person.
Thank you.
But someone even more interesting than you is this lady right here.
My baby girl.
So I don't know if you want to talk about your other half.
Yes. So Sophie is my baby. Our little family was created last June. She was born in rescue up in Minneapolis area of Minnesota. And I was chosen to be her mom. So she came home with me on Father's Day of 23, excuse me. This is 24. She came home with me on Father's Day of 24, and she has just been my absolute joy. But this is Sophie. She's just heavenly. She's just a little sweetheart. Everybody loves her. She comes with me everywhere. She's usually with me here at work, but Thursdays are her puppy camp days. So she went to go play with her friends for the day. But yeah, she comes with me everywhere we go. All the stores, all the shops, flies with me. She's a great, I wish they would let dogs earn frequent flyer miles, because she comes with me all over the place. And I'm like, why can't I get a free ticket for her? Or couldn't she be my companion? No, Sophie helps me pick out yarn. She loves fiber. She never messes it up or attacks it, but she loves to smell the fiber. She loves, this morning she had her head in a bag that was full of fiber from Tabitha. She's just sniffing it and laying on it.
Hank does the same. He likes to lay, if there's a little cake, like this, he'll lay down next to it and lay his head on the cake, it's a little pillow. And then when I'm washing fiber, he's just kind of like, what is that? The smell, the smells and stuff. He just loves that stuff. My little Hank. Yeah. They're such a joy, aren't they?
They are. I debated for 5 years whether or not I should get a dog. And I finally, earlier last year, I was like, you know what? I'll just put my name, get my adoption, whatever application in, and we'll see what happens. And I happened to be getting my hair done, and I saw this litter of puppies that were born right at one of the foster homes. And I was like, oh God, they're so cute. So I sent in my email really quick, said, I would love one of these if they're available. But and the stars aligned, and Sophie's, she's the apple of my parents' eyes too. She could do no wrong.
Dog. Yeah. My parents call Hank their grand dog.
Sophie is their grandbaby too. They have 3 grandbabies, because each of my sisters and I all have a dog. So they have 3 grand puppies, and then they have my sisters, grace them with actual grandchildren too. I did not. They just get a puppy from me. So good. But it's great.
Crystal, is there anything that you would like people to know that's coming up for you besides the boxes?
Yeah, the boxes are coming. I do have another cardigan that will be releasing early next year that finishes off a collection that actually started back in 21, the Hidden Falls collection. And so I'll be starting to share that a little bit more. And I have a few little accessory pieces that'll be popping up here between now and the end of the year. So if you want to be the first to know and also receive a few special little gifts that are coming up for this year, join up into my newsletter. You can access it through any of my profile links and through my website too. But yeah, that's really it. I mean, this is the time, like you said, Kimberly, this is a busy time for all of us makers, whether you're a designer or a knitter or crocheter. Like there's gift knitting going on. If you are one who likes to gift people with your beautiful finished pieces, and as designers, like it's basically fourth quarter. And it's no
Yeah,
matter what you do, whether you have a business or you
it
are or
is.
not. I mean, fourth quarter is wild, and it
Yeah.
all starts in October, and it's just a race like to the end of the year to
I feel like we're in the
do.
2-minute warning right now.
I know.
Thanksgiving is 2 weeks from today.
I know. How is that possible?
I don't know.
Like,
I
it was
don't.
just Halloween. We were just at Rhinebeck a month ago, and
I
it feels
know.
like yesterday.
I
So,
know.
yeah. Yeah, this is a crazy time. So I wish everybody, stay calm, keep knitting, keep crocheting. And if you don't get the stuff done, that's okay. You can always present it to them on the needle still, and they're still going to love it. So,
That's so true. That is so true. Well, I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love that we have been connected, and that we have the same love for spinning, and we have a love for our tiny dogs. Oh, someone in the comments asked what breed Sophie is.
oh, so that's a great question. I did not do a DNA test, but one of her siblings' parents did. And she came back as like almost half Havanese and half Shih Tzu. And I swear she has a little Maltese in her because I swear her mom was a Maltese. She was all white. She looked just like the Malteses we had and like Hank.
Mhm.
So that I had growing up. So yeah,
She
it's
reminds me of a Maltese, just the way she cuddles in
love
like
her.
Maltese do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, a Cavapoo. Ooh, I love Cavapoos. And no, she's not an ESA service dog. She's she's too wild for that. She has a
If her
mind of her
mommy
own.
isn't
She
around,
bosses
she
me around.
that's so funny.
But
Well, Crystal, I would
no,
like to thank you very
thank
much for
you.
coming on. I hope that everybody, that whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, or if you're watching the recording, you do go ahead and look in the description and see all of Crystal's beautiful designs. They're so thoughtful and thought out and beautiful, and not so difficult that the beginner knitter can't make something beautiful and spectacular, because of her attention to detail, her patterns are very, very well written and thought out. So dive in and learn something new and make something beautiful. And I look forward to talking to you later, Crystal.
Me
And
too. Thank
I hope
you.
everyone has a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week.
All right. Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.